Good afternoon. My name is Paul Hoff. I'm here to talk about the 5 most important leadership qualities to me. Starting off, I'd like to talk about communication. Communication is important to me because communication is one's ability to transfer ideas to a receiving party effectively, right? A good example of this from my own experience would be working as the aviation program's tutor. A lot of my job was to take students who are maybe falling behind or having some trouble with things and to help them catch back up and to help understand things that maybe they weren't catching on to, right? A good specific example of this would be one student who was having trouble understanding the 4 left turning tendencies of airplanes came to me. And so to help him, what I did was I took those 4 left turning tendencies and all of the concepts related to them and I broke them down into more manageable, digestible chunks. And doing that in addition with visual aids, in this particular instance, if I remember right, it was a fidget spinner. I was able to help that student understand these ideas, and by the end of it, he knew it better than anyone else. Now, once again, communication is important because if I, a leader, if I can't communicate my vision, if I can't communicate my desired actions, if I can't communicate what I want you to do, if I can't communicate who I want you to be or who I need you to be, my leadership isn't going to be effective. No one's going to listen to me, right? 2 is responsibility. I think responsibility is important because it's one's duty to take care of those that they're leading and those that they're working with and what they're putting together. A good specific example of this would be, in addition to being the aviation program's tutor, I'm also the program club's president. And part of the president's responsibility each year is to plan the spring fly-in. Now, fly-in is, it's like a fly-in breakfast. What you do is you bring an airplane, you get free coffee, you get free pancakes and whatnot. But there's a lot of planning that goes into that, right? There's food, there's seating, there's advertising, there's volunteers, there's grills. I mean, any number of things go into it. And it was my job, it was my duty, my responsibility to meet those needs and to make sure they got brought together. So what I did was I took a lot of time out of my personal schedule to make sure that those were met. I went to meetings, I made calls, I got posters up, I met those needs because it was my job to do so. The end result, of course, was a fly-in with over 300 people in attendance and 28 airplanes, quite possibly the largest fly-in in South Dakota, not to self-plug. But once again, responsibility is important to a leader because it's their job to meet the needs of those that they're leading and those that they're working with, right? And in addition to that, I want to say too, it's their job to own the outcomes of anything that they're doing, right? For example, if the flying goes good, great. If the flying goes bad, it's still my job, right? It's still my job to be on top of it and own those outcomes. Okay. Third is commitment. I think commitment is important because if a leader isn't committed to their cause, they're never going to make it to their cause, right? A good example of this would be, honestly, aviation is a pretty tough industry to get into between high cost ceilings, weather, especially in South Dakota, breakdowns, scheduling conflicts. It is just all around a hard time. And to meet that need to be fully committed, I've cut a lot of things out of my personal life. You know, for example, I love sailing, but because I'm committed to my end goal of aviation, I haven't been on the water in over 3 years, right? I just don't have time, and I made that sacrifice in order to meet my goal. My goal, of course, being graduation here in a week and finishing up my ratings by the end of the month. Once again, I've been successful in that because I've been committed to my cause. Once again, leadership requires commitment because if a leader isn't committed to their cause, nobody's going to follow them. Commitment turns you into a beacon of inspiration, right? If a follower sees a leader being committed to their cause, the follower is going to be committed as well. But if the leader isn't, why should the follower care, right? Moving on, number 4 is problem solving. This one's pretty straightforward. I think that problem solving is important because it's your job as the leader to be a grounding force in times of pressure, right? If somebody can't put out their own fire, they have to come to you to put it out, right? A good example is returning to my flying example. The day of, like any event, there were problems, right? We ran out of sausage. I think we ran out of pancakes. We ran out of orange juice because there were more people than anticipated. And so these problems kept being brought to me, and it was my job to take them and solve them on the spot. For example, I had somebody run for orange juice. I had somebody go back to the fridge for more sausage. We got things done. And once again, it ended up in that same result. Leadership specifically, problem solving, once again, is important because, like I said, you have to be a grounding force. You have to be a source of stability in times of crisis. People need to be able to come to you with their problems and you be able to say, here's your solution, this is what we're going to do about it, and move on, right? If you can't do that, you won't be a leader. And fifth and finally, my most valued one probably is charisma, right? Charisma is what takes a boss and turns them into a leader, right? A good example of this was honestly the last year, morale has been really low in my class. People have really been down. They haven't really wanted to show up to extracurricular activities, but they still have been, specifically with my aviation club meetings and the flying and everything. And they're still showing up, but you can tell that they don't really want to be there, right? And one of the students told me that they weren't there for the activity. They were there because I was there, and they just liked being around me, right? Once again, I think to go from being somebody who's pointing fingers and telling people what to do to being a leader, to being a real source of inspiration, it takes charisma. It takes more to just be. It takes more to be somebody who's a big smile and just a beacon, right? You need charisma. Closing. Those are my 5 most valuable characteristics to me. Once again, of course, there's 21 in the book, so they're all very important, but those are the 5 that I value the most. Thanks for watching.